Welcome to Michigan's WW1 Centennial News Report for November 2015. WW1 Historical Association and League of WW1 Aviation Historians 2015 Collaboration Symposium. I'm your host, Dennis Skupinski. The State Report, an update on Michigan's WW1 Centennial Commission. On November 2nd, General Mike Stone of the Michigan National Guard welcomed a number of individuals to a meeting at the National Guard headquarters in Lansing, Michigan. Susan Meniga of the Pritzker Military Museum out of Chicago was a project manager for the Midwest and helped set up this meeting. Those who attended the meeting and are present in the picture are Major General Stone from the Michigan National Guard, Susan Meniga from the Pritzker Military Museum, Dennis Skupinski from the WW1 Centennial News Report, David Johnson, Chair of the Michigan Military and Space Heroes Museum, John Ryder, Executive Director from the same museum, Stephen Kozura, Liaison to the National Guard from the Michigan government, and Jack Dempsey, the Michigan Historical Commission. This meeting was a prelude and basically a meet and greet of the different parties involved in Michigan's WW1 Centennial, when legislation will be introduced by Senator Rebecca Warren, Ann Arbor, and Representative Adam Zemke, Ann Arbor, in the near future. One century ago, on November 1st, 1915, Parris Island, South Carolina, officially became a Marine Corps recruiting depot and training facility. It trained Marines from 1915 until the present day. U-38 caused a diplomatic incident when it sank the Italian passenger liner Ancona off the coast of Tunisia while sailing under the Austrian flag. The Ancona was bound from Messina to New York, was fully booked, and over 200 lives were lost, including 9 Americans. Coming as it did 6 months after the sinking of the RMS Lusitania off Ireland, the Ancona sinking added to a growing outrage in the U.S. over unrestricted submarine warfare, and U.S. Secretary of State Robert Lansing dispatched a sternly worded protest to Vienna. Also on November 7, 1915, the German light cruiser Undine was steaming north of Arkona with a pair of destroyers when she was attacked by the British submarine E-19, under the command of Lieutenant Commander Francis Crome. E-19 launched a pair of torpedoes at the Undine at a range of 1,000 meters, both of which hit. The second torpedo detonated her ammunition magazines and blew up the ship. The Undine sank quickly in 13 minutes. Only 14 men were killed in the attack, and the majority of her crew was rescued by the escorting destroyers. The loss of the Undine came at the heels of the sinking of the armored cruiser Prince Adalbert 2 weeks earlier. These 2 losses were significant enough to compel the German Navy to curtail the movements of the fleet in the Baltic for the remainder of the year. On November 10, 1915, the Fourth Battle of the Isonzo Valley took place. This was on the Italian-Austro-Hungarian front. The Italians were aiming for the town of Gorizia. As for the other 3 battles of the Isonzo, this one ended in failure for the Italians also. On November 11, 1915, the British in the Mesopotamian front, present-day Iraq, began their advance on Baghdad. On November 12, 1915, Theodore William Richards was the first American scientist to receive the Nobel Prize in Chemistry, earning the award in recognition of his exact determinations of atomic weights of a large number of chemical elements. November 24, 1915, Henry Ford announced to a New York City press conference that he had chartered an ocean liner, the Oscar II, for a diplomatic mission to Europe, and invited the most prominent pacifists of the age to join him. Among those invited were Jane Addams, William Jennings Bryan, Thomas Edison, and John Wanamaker. Addams, Bryan, Edison, and Wanamaker all declined. However, a number of noted peace activists did join the voyage. Along with the peace activists were over 40 reporters and Henry Ford's personal friends. President Wilson declined to endorse Ford's trip because it was unlikely to succeed.
World War I Historical Association and with the League of World War I Historians of Aviation. This is the first time we've joined together to produce a symposium, and it's been a marriage of convenience.
One of the situations that makes this unique is that Escadrille MF-29 was in an area where there was not a very fast operational tempo. For example, in September 1915, they conducted 6 bombing missions. Other war diaries, you've got at least 1 bombing mission going on practically every day. So because there's not so much to write about operationally, they would keep track of other things going on in the squadron. And from that you can glean details about their daily life. You actually get a picture of this individual commander's leadership style. For those of you who have done primary historical research, you often come to find that you really love the documents. That it's really cool, and this document is better than most. You know, we're talking 1915. Nobody's ever done this before, and so there's really a lot of fascinating little details in here. Okay, I need to tell you some about the conditions under which MF-15 operated. They were first established as an escadrille in early July 1915. They had 10 aircraft. The time period we're going to look at is we're focusing on September 1915, primarily because it was the time of the escadrille's first major crisis. And they were based at Belfort in the Vosges Mountains. I'll show you a map in a minute. You've got Capitan A commanding, and they're flying Maurice Farman MF-11 2-seater pusher bombers. So they were doing more than bombing. They were down literally at treetop level, strafing trains. They also attacked at Rottweil, a gunpowder factory. And the green raids against Freiburg and Mulheim were reprisal raids against cities for German atrocities. These raids were up to 80 miles away from Belfort, one way, which is really an amazing thing, an amazing distance for a plane with that lack of capability. They had a telegraph and a telephone. I'm sure it was only one telephone. And every time someone sent a message by either means, it was recorded in the war diary. Or every phone call or every telegram that came in was recorded word for word in the war diary. So you really get a picture of this is how they communicated with the outside world. Remember, they're kind of at the very far end of the Western Front.
Another presentation at the symposium was by Richard F. Church, The Kaiser's U-Boats, Unrestricted Submarine Warfare, the Lusitania, and Will They Bring America into the War?
And maneuverability and relatively greater durability against the simple fact that the Fokker Eindecker had a synchronized machine gun where the pilot could just point the plane and fire at his target, whereas the Frenchman had to take into consideration that wherever he fired, the gun was several feet above his head.
Besides the presentations, there was also other activities, such as a World War I board game demonstration. Several living history people showed up in their uniforms and gave presentations about their uniforms and equipment that were worn during the First World War. Also, there were several displays set up like this one of hand grenades, or this display of World War I literature and propaganda. The World War I Symposium planners did an excellent job in providing not only excellent presentations, but also other activities to keep the World War I enthusiasts interested during the two-day symposium. Part of the overall experience at the 2015 Collaboration Symposium was a trip to the Cantigny Museum in Wheaton, Illinois, about 20 minutes from the hotel. We had a chance to go see the 1st Division in the Robert R. McCormick Museum and Research Center. It had a number of interesting displays from the First World War and went all the way up to the Gulf Wars. The Robert R. McCormick Research Center houses a number of unit histories, oral histories, etc., and is a great place to go if you're doing research on the 1st Division or other military matters.